In this tutorial, we're going to cover how to enter a hardware schedule from a set of plans, or in this case, from a spec book, and get it into Portal Pro. That way, without going through and entering everything manually. And we're going to do that using a third-party program. In this case, we're going to use a program called Abbyy. It's Abbyy. Any third-party program would work. Adobe Acrobat. I'm not sure if the free version can convert to Excel or not, but I'm pretty sure the paid version does. So any third-party program that, like I said, will convert a Excel spreadsheet to, or I'm sorry, a PDF file to an Excel spreadsheet will work. So in this case, we're going to use a program called Abbyy. Abbyy you can find at abbyy.com. When you go to their website, you would just scroll all the way down. Let's go ahead and get rid of this virtual person. Scroll all the way down to where you see under products. And what you're looking for is Abbyy Fine Reader PDF. You can click on that, and you can either try it for free or you can buy it now. Try it for free if you want to just make sure it's something you want to work with. If you buy it, I think it's like a yearly subscription, and you'd want just the standard version right here. You don't need Mac because Portal Pro doesn't run on Mac, so you're going to be using the Windows version here. Now, it does run on Mac if you use Parallels, but even Parallels is still a Windows-based front end for a Mac. Okay, so that's the program we're going to be using. Now, before we do anything in Portal Pro, we have to create our Excel spreadsheet. And we're going to do that we'll open up the set of plans. And in this case, it's we've already imported the doors and frames. Now, even if you're only supplying hardware, keep in mind you still want to use the door schedule because you'll have to have the tag numbers and the hardware sets, and even phases. If your project has phases, you want to make sure all that's entered into your door schedule first. You pretty much don't need any of the other information, but you can cover that later. If you want to add all of it, like door material and things like that. So to do this, this is a spec book here in this project. So I already have Abbyy installed on my PC, so I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to Open With, and I'm going to choose Abbyy Fine Reader. I don't want Adobe Acrobat. I'm going to use Adobe Fine Reader, or Abbyy Fine Reader. And when it opens, you can see it opens up to the spec book. This is the entire spec book. And in this case, I know the schedules start on page 222, right here. So I would go directly to that page. We're not interested in anything else in this spec book. So to get this into Portal Pro, we need to open up a blank Excel spreadsheet. Got one opened up here. Let's put them side by side so we can see everything together. And what I'm going to do is, I'm not interested in any of this data up here. I am interested in who the manufacturers are. So one thing you want to do is look at the manufacturers and make sure that all of these are already in your database. If there's a manufacturer there that's not in your database yet, then go back to Portal Pro under Vendors and Manufacturers and add a new manufacturer. That way you can match it up when you're working in this to get them imported. All right, so once all your manufacturers and everything are there, we're going to take our left mouse button, hold the left mouse button down, and we're going to draw a box. So I'm going to hold the button down. You can see I'm drawing a box around just the hardware sets. Leave out the page number. We don't need that data. It just creates an unnecessary row that we have to get rid of later. So we'll highlight. Once I get the box drawn around those hardware sets, I'll let go of the mouse. I get three options popping up here to copy as. The first one is image. We do not want that. Next one is copy as text or copy as table. Now, not all our architects' PDF files are created equal. So you may have to play around with this sometimes to see which one works the best. We're trying to get this data right here moved into Excel so that we want it to be in separate columns as much as possible. So in this case, I want to use copy as text. Now, once it's finished copying, it says copy to clipboard. I'll come back over to my Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to go to the second cell in the second row right here. Make sure it's highlighted. So I'll click on that, and we'll explain why in just a bit. And I want to right click here, and I come down to paste options. I can do paste, which I do not want because it puts everything into one column. In this case, I'm going to do match destination formatting. This will separate everything as much as possible into separate columns. So I'll click that, and we have our data now in Excel. I'll come back over to the door schedule, the spec sheet, draw another box around the hardware sets. Now you could do this all at once, but like I said, you'll get page numbers and things like that. So I'm just doing them one page at a time. We'll copy as text again. Once it's done, we'll come back over to our spreadsheet, click in the next empty cell, right click, and again, paste, match destination formatting. Come back over to our spec book. It's not a very big project. I'll draw another box around the final sets. Copy. Come back over to our spreadsheet, right click, and paste. So there's our schedule in Excel. So I'll go ahead and minimize this. We should be done with that. Minimize that. Okay, so now we have our Excel spreadsheet with the hardware sets in it. But we need to do some cleanup on this. We need to get rid of some rows that are not needed. You're not going to need the door tag numbers. Again, that in Portal Pro, that will come from the door schedule. That's why it's important to make sure those are in there before you try to import these. So we're going to take our left mouse. We're going to start deleting these unneeded rows. So put my mouse over into this numbered column to where I get an arrow. I'll hold my left mouse button down and just drag down and highlight all three of these rows. I do not need any of this. And I'll come back over to this numbered column, not over here where everything's highlighted, but in this numbered column, right click and click delete. And that removes those rows completely. I'm leaving the hardware set. I'll get to that in just a bit. So I'm going to pause the video and go down and delete the rest of these rows that are unneeded so we keep this video as short as possible. There's a note here. I'm going to get rid of this also because this is something that if I need it, I'll add it to the hardware set in Portal Pro once I get it over there. So I will be deleting this. So I'll be right back in just a second after I delete everything. Okay, here's what we have now. Another thing I want to do is come up here in this very top corner of the spreadsheet, click in there once, well, twice makes it, actually, and it highlights everything. Now I'm going to move my mouse, right now it's an arrow, I want to move it in between the first column. You can see where it changes shape. When I get that shape, I'm going to double click with my left mouse, and all it does is widen each column to the maximum entry. Okay, this just makes it a little easier to work with. Now what we want to do, we're going to use this first column for this hardware set numbers. Now, one thing you want to pay attention to You can see right here it's in the spec book. It's calling it hardware set 1.0. If I look at the door schedule from the plans right here, you can see under hardware they're calling it set 1, set 2 on down. Now, when I imported this door schedule for the doors and frames, I actually got rid of that word set. So this is what it's going to look like once it got into Portal Pro. We'll come into the door schedule form. You can see I'm only using the numbers or letters, whatever they may be. And I even got rid of the .0 that was after each one of these because it's unnecessary data. And again, when I import this, here we go back over here to schedule. I forgot you couldn't see that. We want to just copy this over, just that number, the number 1, not hardware set and not the 0.0. So there's several different ways we can do this. I can come over here into this first column next to the first item in that hardware set. Just click it. I can enter number 1, use my arrow key on my keyboard, and just go down like this and get number 1 in there. Now there's 1, 2. Another way you can do this would be, we'll start here, this hardware set 2. We'll click over here. I can enter the number 2. I'll arrow down on my keyboard, then arrow back up. And then I'm going to do a Control C on my keyboard to copy that. And I'll take my mouse and put it on the next empty cell. Hold my mouse button down and just drag down. So I get all of those highlighted. And then I'll click Control V and paste everything in. So there are a couple different ways you can do that. Now also what I'm going to do is once I get that copied over, I no longer need this row. So I'm going to highlight this row and click delete also. And somehow it looks like I've got an extra row in here. I don't need that one. I only want one row at the top, and that's going to be for column headings. So I'm going to delete that row too. So I'm going to use this row for column headings. So we'll get to it in just a bit. All right, so that's how you're going to enter. You want to get these numbers for the hardware sets over to this first column. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these and then get rid of the rows that aren't needed. Be back in just a second. Okay, got all that cleaned up, got all the hardware sets entered the way I need them with just the numbers. Now I need to look at the hardware sets and make sure everything is correct. And I'm also going to go ahead and add the column headings. So I know this column heading here is going to be the hardware set number. Name it anything you want. I'm just going to call it set num. And I'm going to go over, this one's going to be quantity. Just call it QTY. Next one is actually a description. Let's call it DFC. Keep it short. This one will be part number, because that's the actual number. Just call it part num. Next one should be finish. The next one should be manufacturer. I'll just use an abbreviation for that. Okay. Now, once I have my column headings in here, I can look at this and I can tell, like right here, we've got SA, PE, and PE. Those are manufacturers. Those are in the wrong column. Those need to be over here under manufacturer. Apparently, there's no finish. So what I'm going to do is click the first one. I'll come down to the third one, hold the Control key down on my keyboard, or I'm sorry, the Shift key rather, and that will highlight all cells in between the top and bottom one that I clicked. Now I'm going to do a Control X. I want to cut those out of that cell. I'll come over to this first cell here and do Control V. And that moved them over for me. So now I need to do some more things here. First thing I notice is right here, we've got the part number. Unfortunately, when I copied it over, it put the part number in the same column as the description. That's where 351 CPS starts. So I need to move this over into this column, but in this column I've got, looks like the finish, EN. So I need to get that EN and move it over here under finish. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll click in that cell, we'll do a Control X. Come over here, Control V. So now this cell is empty. Now this one I got to do a little bit different because all the text is together. I'll click it. I need to come up here. I'm going to take my mouse, hold the left mouse key down, and just scroll over and highlight the part number. Now I can do a Control X and come down here, highlight it, and Control V. So that's how I want it to look. Just look at anything else. Over up here, this is okay. It put the part number 555 since it's all numerical, and it kept it on the right side of the column. That's okay. That's not going to hurt anything. You can format it that if you like, but this is a temporary schedule. I'm not going to worry about it. Looks like it did the same thing over here for the finish. It's just a number, so it kept it on the right side of the column. All right, now down here we have a little issue. I noticed right off the bat. Over here under description it says SI space N. Looks like it got the G and put it over here. You can see the G is in that column. And then we even have, if I look at the schedule, let's see. Let's go back up to where that is. I'll need to zoom in a little bit, make it easier to see. You can see the TBD was supposed to be under finish and the main 00 was supposed to be under manufacture. So this is how it should have looked. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to just click in the cell, and I can just make this easy. I'm just going to type the word sign. Now over here, I'm going to take out this TBD and just highlight it and click delete. You can see that we have business hours too. It's not showing up here. So what I want to do is hit delete while my cursor is still in this box. And that brings it up to the next line. I'm going to go ahead and delete, get rid of that G. And I want a space in between here. Yeah, it looks like it has a space. Okay, so we're okay. So now I've got it all in one line. Click out of that to commit it. And finish was going to be TBD, so we'll just go ahead and put that back. And this was 00 or 00. I'm not sure which character they were using. Okay, so next one I noticed I've got, looks like it took part of the part number and moved it under the finish, and then moved the finish and manufacturer over to one column. So I need to do the same thing here. I'm going to click in this column. I'm going to do a Control X to cut. I'll come over here, click this one, but I can't paste it here. I'll have to come up here, click in that box, and do Control V on my keyboard. I'm sorry, I want to try paste. Oh, all right. Let's try this one more time. This is what I need to do. I need to highlight it up here, do Control X. Now I'll come to this cell, click up here and do Control V. Okay, so that moved it onto where it should be. Now we have the correct part number. Okay, so the finish, I can go ahead and do Control X on my keyboard, Control V to paste it. Same with the manufacturer, Control X, move it over here. Okay, so we'll continue down the list. Looks like I've got another one here. It took part of the part number, put it under the finish column. This whole thing belongs over here. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do Control, highlight it up here and do Control X. Come down to the part number here, click next to that. I'm going to go ahead and put a space in here and do Control V. And again, we're going to do the same thing with the finish, do Control X, which I can do right here, Control V, Control X, and Control V. Okay, so you can see I need to do a few more on here. I'll go ahead and finish this up, and when I get it completed, we'll be right back. I'm going to pause the video. So there we have our spreadsheet all cleaned up, got everything where it should be in the correct columns. Just look it over real quick. Now, sometimes they go in real smooth, sometimes they don't. Like this one, I had to make some corrections to. They're all different, so there's no way to really tell what's going to happen till you actually start importing these things in. Actually, looks like I got one more there, but I've already corrected all these. I'm not going to do this over. So once you've completed this, once you've got it all corrected and ready to go, make sure you save it. Save it someplace on your hard drive where you can get to it again. Give it a name, whatever, for the project, and go ahead and close it out. So don't save. All right, so now we can come over to our door schedule in Portal Pro and go to the hardware right here. And now we're ready to import that spreadsheet. Now I'm going to come down to this button. You can see all our hardware sets are in here from the door schedule, but we have no parts yet. So we're going to click on this button, Add Hardware from File. That will open up this form. So what I need to do is, first of all, is get the file. And go to wherever you had saved that file, go to that and just double click the file. Make sure it's closed also. If it's open and you do this, you will get an error saying that it's in use. So we'll say just double click it. And then once it's loaded here, now we can go down and match up our columns. So the first one is hardware set, which I called set number. And again, you can name those columns anything you want, doesn't matter, just as long as you know which ones to select. Quantity will be, of course, quantity. Part number is part number. Description is description. And finish there. And manufacturer here. Now you can see when I get to manufacturer, I need to match up those abbreviations to manufacturers in my database. This is why it's critical when you're importing these from that schedule. You notice a manufacturer you do not have in your database yet. Make sure you enter them first under vendors and manufacturers. Okay, so AD was, I'll just double click that one. And it's asking me which manufacturer to use. I know that's Adams, right? Right there. So I'll hit the tab key on my keyboard to select it. And you see it automatically used Adams Wright as the vendor also. Now, if for some reason I wanted to use a different vendor, I would have to select them now and then add it back again. example, instead of where I buy these products from, maybe I buy them from, let's say, Advanced Hardware. I can click Advanced Hardware, and you can see it loads that as the vendor. But typically, it's going to use whatever I told Portal Pro. If I buy direct from these manufacturers, it will use that vendor automatically. So I'll just go down the list. Next one is McKinney, or MK. That's going to be McKinney. Oh, that's to be determined. I'll leave that blank for right now. PE was Pimco. RO was Rockwood, and SA was Sargent Manufacturer. So there I have my manufacturers. All right, so now we have one for category. You can leave this blank if you like. It possibly could help you later on if you want to put the category in, but if you'll remember, we don't have a column called category. But one thing you can do is you can use a description column. So if I select description, it'll bring up all the descriptions used in the spreadsheet. I'll just start here at the top, do continuous hinge first. I'll double click that. And now I need to find the category that matches for continuous hinges, which is going to be hinges pivots. Same with cylinder. I'll select cylinder and just go down the list. Door closer, that will be closers, overheads, holders, and stops. Door closers again. I still need to select closers, even though it's highlighted. This is door closers again. Flush bolt. Flush bolts coordinators. Gasketing is thresholds and weather stripping. Hinge, again, is hinges. And I'm going to pause the video to save some time on this, and I'll finish these. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got all the categories matched up. Things like continuous hinge, cylinders, closers, flush bolts, gasketings, threshold and weather stripping, kick plates, latch protectors, accessories. So, like I said, we just went down and matched them all up. All right, so once that's completed, I'm going to reselect this just to close that out. Once they're all matched up, now we're ready to click save. I know phase shows up here. That's my mistake. You won't see this one in your copy. That should not be there, and neither should that. So I'll correct that after I'm done here. Now, once we're ready, got everything matched up, we're going to click save. And what it's going to go through is that Excel spreadsheet. It's going to match them all up and get them entered into Portal Pro. So I'm going to pause the video and let this run while I'll be right back as soon as it completes. Okay, actually went pretty quick. So you can see that all the products are over here. If we look at the hardware sets, you want to just take a quick look, make sure everything went in correctly. Hardware set 1. Make sure the doors are correct. We've mentioned this before in other tutorials. Sometimes an architect will use the same hardware set number for a single opening and a pair. And when that happens, I'll go over to the back over to the door schedule form, and instead of 1, I'll call one of them 1A. That way it'll separate them so we get the correct number of hinges and things like that based on how many doors are in the opening. Okay, so again, just look them over real quick. Go down the list, make sure everything looks okay. And if everything looks good, at this point, you can go over to vendor quotes And you could, if we select hardware, then select the vendor. Again, it's not a very big project, but this will pull up a list of all those vendors, which we have this covered under another tutorial. So I'm just going to just mention it right here. So that you could get quotes at this point without actually matching these up with a product in your database. Now, if you look under ordering, I was playing around with this. These should not be in there. That was my mistake. I should have emptied that first. But you can see, like doors and frames, nothing shows up here yet because nothing has been matched up to an actual product. So I would have to come under Update Products, Discounts and Markups. And there's a tutorial on this, so I ask you to please watch that. I'll show you how to use this and how to match up these generic part numbers. Like for a door schedule, let's say. You can see these are just generic part numbers. So we need to match that up to an actual part in the database. But there's no tutorial, as I said, that covers that. So this should be everything you need to know. If you have any questions or comments on how this imports using Abbyy, please give us a call or email. Thanks.